Alright, so the Falashruti of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is that simply by even a part of a verse of 15th chapter can deliver someone to the spiritual world. So last week we did 8 chapters from the 8 verses from the 15th chapter. Anyone remembers what the points were? Someone had started and then interrupted. You.
Bhakti is very essential for devotional service. Bhakti comes first and then detachment comes.
So what is the goal of chapter 15? To cultivate detachment. What is the example that is given?
Banyan tree.
So can anyone elaborate?
Basically, there is a banyan tree, which is like a material entanglement. We are hopping from one branch to another, like the living entity goes from one branch to another, which is like going from the lower plane, like the animals, to the human birth, to demigods, to the higher planet. The highest is the Brahmaloka. So the roots are actually coming from the Brahmaloka, from the Brahma. So the roots are coming from there, the branches are down below. And that tree is basically like, in the material world you can actually see that tree when you see the reflection near a river. So that reflection is also our desires. So reflection, it needs our desire. So as we desire, we are continuously...
Reflection is our desire or?
Water is our desire.
Water is our desire. Material existence is the reflection. And the cause of that is water. Does it make sense? The cause of reflection is water. The cause of material existence is desire. So water is equal to desire. Does it make sense? Yeah. But so far, yeah, good. So, go ahead.
So basically, we are entangled in this. We are moving from one branch to another. So as your desire is, we get the same kind of body, and with the same senses. So like the twigs of the branches are like the sense objects. So basically, as you desire, you will get the next body, which with the same, to are supposed to enjoy the sense objects, same kind of body you will get.
The next body is dependent on 2 things. What are those 2 things? And always remember that point. It will come in the exam as fill in the blanks.
Water represents desire. If no water, no reflection. If no desires, no material existence.
Correct. Okay. So, karmena deva netrena jantur deho. It is based upon karma that we get our next bodies. Based on the desire and karma both. Anything else?
We also, Krishna also talks about this material world, 180 degree, this material entanglement. So there's a superior world, which is a spiritual world, which is, there's no need for any light, no sun, no moon, enlightened by the Brahm Jyoti of effulgence of Krishna himself. So there's a supreme abode. So Krishna tells that as well in this chapter, that there's a supreme abode.
You also mentioned a point regarding cutting the knot. You cannot, the tree is so strong that you cannot come out. I think you cannot pull out the tree. You cannot pull the tree, but you can cut yourself and come out. Meaning the detachment.
So we took the example of truck. How many of you remember the truck example? How many of you don't remember the truck example? How many of you never raised their hands? Sashi Prabhu, you never raised your hand. I couldn't see, okay. Abdaban Prabhu's head was blocking it. Okay. So you remember the truck example? Yes. So if you bind your And you can use it in your Bhakti Vrikshas also. A very powerful example. You bind your body to a truck, and then the truck, and then there is no driver in the truck, but you claim credit, saying that see how much strong I am, that I can keep the truck stationary. And then the truck driver comes and puts it in reverse gear, right? And then you have a problem. The truck is approaching you, but still your false ego doesn't go. Now you are saying that see how I am pulling the truck by my power, right? And then finally he puts it in forward gear, and then you know you are finished. Most of our life is like that, because we can see death coming, and then what is the way now? Only to cut the rope which binds you to the truck. That's the only way you can get saved. You can't control the truck, not the driver. So that's a very nice example. So this material world, the knot of material existence must be cut with the axe of knowledge and detachment. Okay. So we saw that. Now how to do that?
Associating hearing from saintly personalities.
Which verse?
Verse 4.
No, which verse from Srimad Bhagavatam did we cross-reference?
1.9.26.
Who said that? Yes. Which verse? Anyone? Arvind Prabhu.
25. Read and understand.
Arvind Prabhu, are you here? Which verse? No. That is also we did. Vasudeva Bhagavati is also fine. That's also correct only. Because by cultivating Satam Prasanga Virya Samvita. That is what we discussed, no? Bhavanti Hrit Karana Rasayana Katha. That Doshana Vasu Apavargavatmani Shraddha Ratir Bhakti. So we saw that, no? So by the association of pure devotees, discussing the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are very pleasing and satisfying to the Bhavanti Hrit Karana. Bhavanti means what? Very, very pleasing to Hrit and Karana. Hrit means heart. Very pleasing to the heart and the ear. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation. Tad Joshanad Asu Apavarga Vartmani. Apavarga Vartmani means what? Liberation. Mrityu Samsara Vartmani is material world. Apavarga Vartmani is out of the material world. He is freed. And then Shraddha Ratir Bhaktir Anukramishati. Faith increases when we do that. So faith is not something which is constant. Faith goes up and comes down. Sometimes our faith is very high. Have you felt that? And some other days your faith is very low. Kya ho raha hai? Kya Bhagwan? Like that. So faith is like that and like that. So therefore we have to always hear from saintly personalities. Constantly we have to hear. The moment we stop hearing, then our faith goes down, our intensity of our devotion goes down. In our interactions we may make mistakes. We may take wrong decisions. But if we keep hearing constantly, then we are always safe in life. So this is the most important lesson. This is coming again and again and again in every section. It's being implied as well as explicitly said. Again and again. So this faith is supreme important. So in verse 5, Lord Krishna talked about surrender and the qualities of one who surrenders. What are the qualities of one who surrenders? Such a person is free from pride and bodily attachments. Someone who is proud is basically an ignorant person. With knowledge should come humility. As long as we remain ignorant, we are very proud. Because the more we do devotional service, but more, what is our realization?
Detachment.
What is our realization?
More material.
More we feel that we are less qualified. Correct? And the less we do devotional service, we feel we are more qualified. Correct? Now it works exactly opposite. So therefore, freedom from pride is a symbol of advancement in spiritual life. So we saw that in the last class. And then verse number 7 was what? It was a key memory verse. Mamai Vamsha Jival, okay? So what did we discuss there? Sanatana means what? Living entity is eternal and still remains a fragment. Vishnu Tattva is a personal expansion and Jivas are separated expansions. We saw that. Karshati means struggling very hard. Why the Jiva is struggling very hard? Because of the mind. Because the Jiva is bound by iron chains, by false ego. But mind is the chief agent which drives us to material existence. So we have to befriend the mind. We saw that. And mind has the power to decide our future. Our mind decides our future. Because our activities and thoughts are largely governed by our mind. And we get our next body based upon our mind's desires. So even if we think, where did I hear this? I think Radha Gopinath Prabhu was saying in one lecture. Day before I was here. Yesterday was a Friday? No, day before, Thursday. I was hearing when coming from workplace. Radha Gopinath Prabhu was saying that even if we desire, Kash, he says in the lecture, Kash aise hota tha. If we even think like that, then we are preparing next body for that. Kash mere aisa hai. Kash means what? Alas. Is it alas? If. I wish that I had. The moment you wish something material, then you have to take another birth. Because those desires go deep inside and sit, and one more birth. So he said our wish should only be what? How to serve the Lord. I wish I had a desire to do unalloyed devotional service. That's all. There should be nothing else in our mind. Otherwise we are back in the material world. Okay, so that was verse number 8. I think we finished till verse number 8. We'll do verse 9 onwards and we'll complete the chapter today. Just one announcement before that. How many of you do not know who is your cell leader? Okay, so I am assuming that everyone knows who is your cell leader. One small change now. Kiran Prabhu will be taking over that role of cell servant for the batch where Yogeshwar Govind Prabhu was a cell servant. That's what. Because Yogeshwar Govind Prabhu is going to be busy over the next 2-3 months, probably more. Okay, so he has requested. So Kiran Prabhu, you will be managing the cell, so which I know you are already probably doing to an extent. So you are responsible for all your members' timely assignment, submissions. Okay, that is one. Number 2, please do not write emails to me saying that Prabhuji, can I submit my essays, whatever. Some people write mails to me and they don't even mention any reason why they are late. There is no reason. Just okay, can I submit it late? Okay. Will we do that in our office? Can we say, can the project go a little bit late? Will they accept at workplace? Nobody will accept that, no? How they will accept? Correct. The least they will expect is you write a reason. Why? So, and there is no reason because there has been ample time which has been given for all the assignments. So we have to work little bit hard. We cannot do Bhakti Shastri course like we easily ekdam aisa life mein chalte rahega. Whenever we have mood, then we write essay. Otherwise, we are busy, and then others should understand how busy we are. So always we expect others always to understand our situation, but we never understand other situation. Only when we teach, we will understand that situation, right? So unless you have an earth-shattering reason, for example, some terminal illness, something like that, then please do not ask for extensions. The dates are final. No assignments will be accepted after those dates. Okay. So how you do it, You have to work out. Just like when office gives assignments, how we do? Isn't it surprising? No? When office gives, nobody says no. No? Only when Prabhupada's assignments are there, then we say, yeah, oh. So please do it. Give it your best shot and complete it. It is not rocket science. Writing an essay should not take more than probably 2 hours exercise. One essay, 2 hours. So if you have to write 6 essays, one day, Saturday, you sit in the morning, you finish it by evening. All 6 essays done. And which you can do tomorrow also. If you want, actually, you can sit and write and submit all the essays tomorrow. But we are giving you time till August end. Some essays are due August mid and others are August end. Don't ask for more time than that. And for the past assignments also, we have given enough time. More than enough time has been given. So don't keep on asking. Because what will happen, if I extend what is most likely will happen?
More extension.
You will ask more extension. That's all. Correct? And then he'll say how it was not fair and how we have not been understood and all that. Correct? So better we have to stop all that somewhere. The course is going on, be with the course. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. See, interesting. Which are what? Grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Damodar,
In the verse, if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs, in his next life he gets a cat or a dog body and enjoys. Consciousness is originally pure like water, but if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure. But the consciousness is changed according to the association of material qualities. Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in his next life, in the next life, he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get a body of a cat, dog, hawk, demigod, or one of many other forms. For there are 8.4 billion species.
What are the points here?
Karanam Gunasangasya.
Very good. Karanam Gunasangasya Sangas Teju Ajayate. Sangat Sanjayate. So, everything is because of the association of the three modes of material nature. So, our body is what? It's a function of the desires of our mind. Our mind drives our next body. So, it's very important, therefore, to control the mind. Anything else? What happens after we get a body? Because of the mind's desires, we get a particular body. And then what do we do with that body?
Enjoy. Sense.
We use it for exploiting the sense objects. So, Gurujan Prabhu gives nice analogy. He says that if we desire to fly, why to take the trouble of hand glider or artificial wings and take a risk? Somebody has to be in the radar, there has to be an ambulance stationary for you, if anything happens, right? So why take all the trouble if you desire to fly? If you desire to do scuba diving, you know what is scuba diving, right? Going in under the water, then why do we want to take the trouble of resurfacing every now and then for filling the tank with oxygen, right? Rather, you better be a fish, because then you can fly without any air traffic control. A fly never crashes, crash lands, right? It doesn't require radar and expensive arrangements, like that. So, if these desires are there, and we engage in people who engage in these kind of activities, they are sowing the seeds for their next life. Like that. So, Lord Kapila Dev in 3rd canto, 31st chapter, 1st verse, 3.31.1, he gives that famous verse. What is that? That chapter is called as the movement of living entities, where he says, Karmana Daiva Netrena Jantur Deha Upapattaye Kriya Pravishta Udaram Pumsareta Kanashraya. So that is very significant, because this verse, what does it say? Karmana Daiva Netrena. Because of our karma, under the supervision of the divine personalities, under the jurisdiction of Mother Nature, Jantur Deha Upapattaye. What do you and I get? We get a body. Deha Upapattaye. Upapattaye means obtains a body. How do we obtain? Striya Pravishta Udaram. By entering the womb of a lady, Stri. How? Pupsa Reta Kanashraya. Through the semen of the man. That's how the soul enters the semen enters the womb, and then we get a body. So, Prabhupada writes nice purport there. He says this verse is very significant because it indicates that it is not the semen of the man that creates life. Men are sometimes very proud, right? It is by me the child is born, like that. But it's not the semen that creates life. Rather, the living entity, the soul, takes shelter inside the semen. Otherwise, so many times the husband and wife can unite and nothing will come out, right? So it's not the man who is responsible, neither the woman who is responsible, but it is the soul which is taking shelter of that semen, and then it is pushed into the womb of the woman. So what decides which semen the soul goes to? Desire. Mind's desires. After death, the subtle body will carry us into our next body, like that. So therefore it is very important to develop the right desires in our life. If we develop the wrong desires, then we are sowing our seeds for millions and millions of more births, which we definitely don't want in this material world. Now this process is applicable to all the embodied living entities, not to a select few. All embodied living entities, the same principle will work. But Prabhupada writes that it is specially mentioned, especially this process is applicable for a man who is transferred to the Andhatamishra hell. Andhatamishra is one of the lowest planetary systems. Okay, Naraka Lokas, Andhatamishra. Andhatamishra, these are all the hellish planets. You know that there is an earthly planetary system, there is a Divya Swarg on top of that. And then below that is the Bila Swarg, the subterranean heavenly planets. And then below that, Patala Loka, which is the lowest of the subterranean heavenly planets. Then there is, in one corner there is Pitru Lok, which is the court. And then there is the jail, which is the hellish planets, which is actually called as Naraka Lok. And there are 26 odd Naraka Lokas, which are meant. 28 Naraka Lokas, which are Tamishra, Andha Tamishra, then so many things. Some Kumbi Paka, something is there. There are so many such planets. So Prabhupada mentioned that this Jantur Deha Upapattaye, this is especially mentioned for the man who was transferred to that Andha Tamishra hell. After suffering there, after seeing so many types of hellish bodies, like those of dogs and hogs, one then comes again into the human form, like that, if he is given a chance. So by our desires we get human body. By our karma also we get human body. Both are required. For example, I can desire that I want to have a body I want to be as handsome as Indradev, right? But I have to have merits also for that. So desire should be there and merits also should be there accordingly for the next body. So sinful living entities, their desires are sinful and their activities are also sinful. Correct? Sinful living entities, their desires are also sinful and their activities are also sinful. So what happens? Because their activities are sinful, they get punishment in the hellish planets. Because you have already done the activity, no? So you are getting punishment. But because their desires are also sinful, then after all that punishment, they get an animal body to fulfill that desire. And then they evolve till the human species. Right? And now that they have evolved from animal to human species, they are just about touching they are in the border of animal and human species. So their behavior and activities are also as such. Right? But it is said that in any life form that you are, you can be saved if you come in contact with a pure devotee. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Kripa Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata. Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Nij. So they can be saved from any of these hellish conditions just by meeting a spiritual master. Just like all of us. Today only somebody was telling in some lecture we were hearing, no? We were all saved. Who was telling that? I don't know. Today or yesterday, some lecture I was hearing where the speaker was saying we have all been saved by Srila Prabhupada. We would have been rotting otherwise. How Prabhupada is saved, huh? Surya Gopal Prabhu said that today morning. Yeah. So how we have been saved? We have really been saved by Srila Prabhupada. He picked us up. Otherwise, we don't know. God knows what we would have been doing by now, right? Being in Australia, God knows what we would have been doing. So we have been saved. So there is a whole cycle around how we get this body. We get punished for our activities and we get a human body based on our desires. Because punishment doesn't necessarily remove desires. That is a problem. If you take a terrorist and you put him in Guantanamo Bay and then give him, third degree treatment, it doesn't mean that after that he will come out like a Paramahamsa. No. Correct, no? For all that he may become even more demonic after that. Correct? So punishment doesn't necessarily change our desires. So there are two different things. So for sinful activities one gets punishment, and then for the desires once again gets a body such that he can enjoy those sinful desires. And so one is trapped in the cycle of birth, disease, old age and death. And into the animal species. Now, why can't people see this happening? If this is what life is all about, why can't common people see this happening? So Lord answers that in the next verse. He says in verse 10, the foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Okay. Sarveshwari Mataji, you want to read?
The word jnana sakshu is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves this present body, nor what form of body he is going to undertake in the next life, nor even why is he living in the particular type of body. This requires a great amount of knowledge understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures heard from a bona fide spiritual master. One who is trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. Every living entity is quitting his body under certain circumstances. He is living under certain circumstances and he is enjoying under certain circumstances under the spell of material nature. As a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. Persons who are everlastingly fooled by lust and desire lose all power to understand their change of body and their stay in a particular body. They cannot comprehend it. Those who have developed spiritual knowledge, however, can see the spirit is different from the body and is changing its body and enjoying it in different ways. A person in such a knowledge can understand how the conditioned living entity is suffering in the material existence. Therefore, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give this knowledge to the people in general, for their conditioned life is very much troublesome. They should come out of it and be Krishna consciousness and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world.
We'll read the next one also. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to. Gauri Mataji.
There are many transcendentalists on the path of spiritual self-realization, but one who is not situated in self-realization cannot see how things are changing in the body of a living entity. The word yogina is significant in this connection. In the present day, there are many so-called yogis and there are many so-called associations of yogis, but they are actually blind in the matter of self-realization. They are simply addicted to some sort of gymnastic exercise and are satisfied if the body is well built and healthy. They have no other information. They are called yatanto
Api.
Akritatmanaha. Even though they are endeavoring in a so-called yoga system, they are not self-realized. Such people cannot understand the process of the transmigration of the soul. Only those who are actually in the yoga system and have realized the self, the world and the Supreme Lord, in other words, the Bhakti yogis, those engaged in pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness can understand how things are taking place.
What are the points in these two verses?
Although you are sufficiently experienced, still you cannot see. So you have so many experiences, so many lifetimes.
One has to gain knowledge from Bhagavad Gita to see.
देहपत्यकात्रादिषु आत्मसैन्यश्वासत्वापि तेषां प्रमत्तो निधनं पश्यन्ति.
The material knowledge will not give you the understanding that you are not this body. The knowledge from Bhagavad Gita is needed.
Prabhupada mentions in many of purposes the world is suffering because of poor fund of knowledge. So this verse 10 also tells the importance of preaching. Prabhupada says that's why Krishna Consciousness devotees, once they pick when they go and try to preach so that the knowledge, proper knowledge can be given.
This is one of the 12th aim of Sastri studies to Jnana Chakshu, seeing through the Shastras.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? So, those who lack knowledge of the body and soul, such people are called as vimudas, most foolish. Because they are blinded by a desire to enjoy constantly. Therefore, Lord Rishabhadev also mentions this point. What is the verse? Nayam deho dehavata bhajam niloke kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujam ye apodivyam utrakayena sattvam shuddhe dyasmat brahma saukyam tvanantam. Correct? So in that, I think that translation is a very beautiful translation where he says that people do not know why they are getting different bodies. That is the one. No?
Of all the living entities who has taken the form of human form of life should not work hard for sense gratification, which is even available for hogs and dogs.
Yeah.
Human beings should work hard to get the love of God, which is permanent.
Okay.
Brahma Saukyam.
Okay, no, maybe then it's not that verse. What the verse which I am talking about, they do not know why they have got a material body. Is that one? Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yat indriya puritaya apranoti. Which verse is that? What's the third line? That's the apt verse for this. Na sadhu manye yata atmanoyam ashan api kleshada asadeha. Okay, so can you read the translation? I think it's a very apt one for this. Do you have that?
No, it's 5.5.
5.5 point? Can you someone read the translation because that's very apt for this. Nunam, N-U-N-A-M, Nunam Pramatta.
5.5.4.
Maybe I should have noted that down here. You have that? Maybe see cross reference behind. NUNAM, Nunam. You get that.
When a person considers sense gratification as
Slow. Don't do express train. Yeah, slowly. Everyone, please hear carefully. Yeah.
When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it is not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activity of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material body one after another.
Yeah? Everyone heard?
The exact verse number 5.1.
It's a beautiful verse. This is from Rishabhadev's teaching. So, most of the people don't even know this science. That's what he's saying. So engrossed in sense gratification, they don't even know why they are here in this material world, why they have got the kind of body they have, why they are suffering. Nobody knows. So somebody has to give us this vidya. So such people are called as vimudas. So they have to be given this vidya. Knowledge is the way of removing ignorance. These people, vimudas, they cannot even experience their own spiritual existence. Why? Because they don't even know how to distinguish between matter and spirit. What is the level? So the cure for that is Shastric training. So these people need to be given Shastric training. That is why we start giving the Shastric training through the Bhakti Vriksha program. And then when people come to a particular standard, then we want to prepare them to become teachers. And then they do the Bhakti Shastri course. So such teachers, they are very serious about the course because they are going to be future teachers. So they read and come for the class. And then they study for the exam, submit all their assignments on time. This is the seriousness, because they know that time is less in hand and lot has to be done to deliver the people who are suffering in this world. So they know that seriousness. So they are very eager to complete the course as fast as they can, and then go out and preach very strongly. Okay. So the cure for ignorance is Shastric training. So it is mentioned that a pure-hearted soul can see the transmigration of another soul. Only a pure-hearted soul can see that actually. The ignorant people cannot perceive that. But facility is given to these ignorant people, and we will come to that in the next few verses also. Even to the ignorant man, facility is given to understand the opulent manifestation of Lord Krishna through the Virat Rupa or through the deity form of the Lord. They can perceive the opulence of Lord Krishna through that. So it's easy for such people. So but till we impart this knowledge to them, then they will remain as vimudas. So that is the basic point that is being covered here. They will never know why they are suffering. Neither will they know how to get out of this suffering. Today Rasik Chandra Prabhu was giving the Saturday feast class. I was folding folk news, so I had a good chance to hear his class. He was saying that unless we read the scriptures, we will never know that there is a spiritual world. Correct, no? Unless we read that, where people will know. So once, in Back to Godhead, I was reading one article of a devotee based in Bombay. He heard this song, Bollywood song. Which song was that? हाँ चल के तुझे मैं लेके चलूँ एक ऐसे गगन के तले जहाँ गम भी न हो आंसू भी न हो बस प्यार ही प्यार पले. So he said that song was very catchy. हाँ चल के तुझे मैं लेके चलूँ means what? Come with me, I will take you to such a place. एक ऐसे गगन के तले, in such a spiritual world जहाँ गम भी न हो आंसू भी न हो, where there is no misery, there are no tears. बस प्यार ही प्यार पले, means where there is only love. Okay. Now the author, when he said that when he tried to find out whoever was the lyricist himself did not believe in that song. He just wrote that song and made money. And somebody sang, some Kishore Kumar must have sung, whoever, Muhammad Rafi, somebody has sung, and then everyone made his money and went. And he himself did not believe in what he has written. So only when you read the scriptures, then you will know that actually there is a place like that, where there is no, that's called Vaikunta, a place where there is no gum and asu. That's why it's called Vaikunta, there are no kuntas, there is no misery. So it's very important. So Rasik Chandra Prabhu was mentioning that unless we read, we come to that knowledge, we will not even know that such a place exists. When we don't know such a place exists, then how will we have an incentive to reach that place in the first place? Right? We will think that, anyway life is like that. People will start rationalizing. Oh yeah, I am suffering, but so what to do? In this material world we suffer sometimes and sometimes we enjoy. But that's what life is all about. So that's all they will say. Right? Or some people will, there are certain English cliched words, take it in your stride. People will say, these things. Just take it in your stride. Like when my father lost his mother, his boss came home and told my father, "Oh, baby, just take it in your stride." What do you mean, take it in your stride? They're meaningless words. They fail to soothe your heart. Like that. So we need to develop this knowledge. Otherwise, there is no point. There is no other way of getting outside this material world, the cycle of misery that we are in. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. As I said, the people who cannot perceive the Lord directly, the Lord is speaking to such people. At least you can perceive me, through the sun, the moon. So that he is in that mood right now. So in that mood he is saying these verses. The splendor of the sun which dissipates the darkness of this whole world comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the 4 kinds of foodstuffs. Okay. So, the Lord helps the devotee or helps the conditioned soul to meditate on him through this analogy of sun, moon and fire. 3 analogies are being used here. Now why these 3 things have been chosen by the Lord? Why sun, moon and fire have been chosen? Because the sun, moon and fire, all these are very vital for our living. That is why the Lord is choosing this analogy. Without the sun, what is going to happen? There will be no life on earth. There will be no plants, no flowers, no vegetation. Nothing will be produced. Even the factories cannot run without the sun. Gurujan Prabhu writes. Even the factories cannot run without the sun. In fact, today solar energy they are looking at an alternate source of energy. So nothing can run without the sun. Our bodies also cannot function without the sun. For example, most of us in this country have vitamin D problem. So the doctor says it's because you are not getting enough sunlight. So you can get osteoporosis or some other diseases. So again, so important. Sun is so very important to our life. We don't realize that we had all this abundantly available and we thought we were living in a poor country. Right? Sun is also very important for mental health. Somebody was again mentioning this. I think Rasik Chandra Prabhu was also mentioning in today's class. He was mentioning that he was mentioning where there was one proverb about the English. The sun never sets in the British Empire. He was mentioning that. But he said many people in the British Empire are going into depression because the sun never rises there properly. I thought that was a good example he gave in today's class. So, sun is also important for our mental health. If it's gloomy, then suddenly you also don't feel like going to work, you don't feel like doing anything. But if it's a bright, sunny day, then you are fully, we are all jubilant. So, sun has got so much of impact on our gross as well as our subtle body and on our consciousness.
And even the moon too.
Yeah, moon I'm coming to. Sorry, yeah, but go ahead. Yeah. So, these are about the sun. So, it is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam that the moon is the one which produces juice in vegetation, which is again corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita. Or vice versa, you can say. So, without the moon, there is no juice inside vegetation. And moonlight is also very soothing, it's cooling. The cooling effect is provided by moonlight. And then fire. So, fire is very important. Fire is very important within as well as without. I'm not saying without fire, I'm saying within and outside. So, within, fire is important because without fire there is no digestion. That is why we have to take the triphala and all these things. Kayam churna, we run around with bottles here and there. So, this is because the fire of digestion is not working for us, like that. Okay. So we can understand. Those who have this problem can really understand why Lord Krishna is giving the example of fire. Like that. And Prabhupada mentions that all 4 types of foodstuffs need fire. Jathar Agni, na? Fire of digestion. The food which is drunk, food which is chewed, food which is licked, and food which is sucked. All these 4 need the power of digestion. Otherwise, life is not sustainable. In fact, most of the health problems I heard someone telling is because of, Keshav Prabhu was saying in the class, Bhagavatam class few days back. All our health problems can be pointed to one cause, which is improper digestion. From there only everything comes. So if the digestion is okay, everything else is okay. If in the morning, simple things, if they happen properly, then our whole mood is good. Otherwise, the whole day is miserable. But not only for us, for others also. So this is the importance of fire within. And what about fire outside? Without fire, there cannot be any rain. How?
After fire, after a hot day.
Okay.
Rain causes through the rain causes because of the yajna.
How? Correct. That's a spiritual answer. That's what I was looking at. Annat bhavati bhutani parjanyat anna sambhava. Without yagyas, then there will be no rainfall. Without rainfall, there will be no vegetation. Without vegetation, there will be starvation and scarcity, and there will be inflation. Right? We can buy Apple products, iPad and iPod, but we cannot buy an apple. Today actually, we don't think twice before buying an Apple product, iPad or iPod. But when we go and buy Apple, then we think, "Arey, khane ka hai kya? Chhod do." Correct, no? Or we go and buy, some, in the South Melbourne market, in the Wednesday evening, na? Kaun sa hai wo? Sunday evening, you will see whether they are giving $1, you'll shout like that. So then you go and buy, Apple. For buying Apple also, we have to think so much. Correct, no? Even after coming to Australia and earning. This is how life is actually, right? Because they are becoming very expensive. If you don't buy $1, then you don't feel like buying it only. So that is a problem. So without fire, we cannot perform yagyas. Without yagyas, there is no vegetation. Survival becomes difficult. So fire is very important. Fire is also very important because without fire, you cannot even cook anything. Right? Without fire, we cannot keep ourselves warm. Right? So throughout our life, then we need fire. And finally, after death also, we need fire. Otherwise, where will the body go? Right? So fire is needed right from throughout the life cycle till the very end. of cremation, then fire is very important. So Lord Krishna is very aptly comparing himself to these three elements to understand how vital it is. It's a very nice way of explaining something. In my childhood, I had one chapter, whoever did SSC, they will know, in Bombay, as dear as salt. There was an English lesson. Anyone remember this? No? That English chapter was called As Dear as Salt. So the story was that there was one king who went about asking everyone, how dear I am. He had 2 daughters. That's why you got 85% and I didn't get. Okay. So the king had 2 daughters, and then what happened after that?
He asked both the daughters, how dear am I to you? And one of the daughters says that you are as dear to me as all the valuables in your treasury.
All the gold, silver, everything. And the other girl said, you are as dear to me as salt. And he didn't like that answer. He said, yeah, salt. 10 paisa you get, salt. And then next day, there was an opulent of her.
He banished her, and then later he goes, she marries the prince, and later he goes to her kingdom, and then she serves him food.
She cooks without salt. All nice, prasadam, I don't know. They didn't mention that. All nice food is cooked, and the king is, his appetite is whet. When he sees all that, then you feel like eating, and then when you eat, and then there is no salt, how disappointed you feel. And then he understands how important that salt is. Without that salt, the best of best things don't have any value. So without Krishna in our life, there are everything becomes a zero. And when Krishna is there, then there's a one which is added ahead of the zero. Then it becomes very invaluable after that, very precious. So Lord Krishna very aptly compares himself to these 3 entities: sun, moon, and fire. So Srila Prabhupada writes that why is he giving this example? Why is Lord Krishna giving this example? So Prabhupada writes that these are some thoughts to provoke Krishna consciousness in the conditioned soul. Because the conditioned soul, somehow he has to be explained. Somehow we have to lift him. Please get up. Nidra chadi utho jiva. Like that. So please wake up from your nidra. So, to provoke Krishna consciousness in the sleeping souls. Therefore, look at the sun, look at the moon. Think about it. Otherwise, it's become a fashion to call oneself atheist nowadays. Even our children are at a very high risk. They may go to schools and they may go and get influenced with other boys or girls who are atheists and who proudly declare that they are atheists. I'm an atheist. Like that. In fact, I remember that I also made this statement. I was not atheist, For me, a moment, something goes wrong, then I will run to the temple, right, in my life. But it's fashionable. Oh, I'm an atheist. It sounds cool. Oh, I'm an atheist. Like that. So people are not atheists, but they will tell that they are atheists. And our children will also come and hear it in the school and say, I am also atheist. Like that. So we have to, so this is going on. This fashion of calling oneself atheist is going on. But to the atheist, then we can give this example. What about the fire? What about the sun? What about the moon? They cannot deny the existence of all these objects and the influence that they have. So can't you see something, some design, some cosmic design everywhere? So we have to convince these people through that logic. So these examples are always handy for a preacher. Okay, so Prabhupada says that these thoughts are to provoke Krishna consciousness in the conditioned soul, and this kind of meditation is very fitting in the initial stages of Krishna consciousness. To a Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam audience, then you don't have to tell them all these things. Can you not see the Lord in the sun, Prabhu? Like that. So no, I'm seeing the Lord in the Archa Vigara every day. Then you don't, it's not required for very advanced devotees, but these are for the initial stages of Krishna consciousness. These examples are very apt. Now, why give this specific example only to these conditioned souls? Why not some other example? Because people who usually refuse to accept Krishna consciousness, what are they infected with? They are infected with pride. That is why they don't take, I am an atheist. Like a big man, they will say, I am an atheist. They will make statements like that. Or they'll say that I am a self-made man. Nobody helped me in this world. When I was down in the dumps, मैंने अपनी तकदीर खुद बनाई है. They will say like that. I have made my own destiny. But without the sun, could he have made his destiny? Without the moon, without juice inside vegetables, how would he have made his destiny? Without fire, Jata Agni inside his stomach, would he have survived to make his destiny? So these are basic things which people forget when they make such statements. So such people have to be reminded. Look, let's just get down, thanda piyo jara, baitho jara, shanti se, baat karte hain. Think about it, like that. So therefore these examples. Now, in verse 13 specifically, it is mentioned that the Lord enters the material world at 3 levels. What are the 3 levels that the Lord enters the material world? The 3 levels in which he enters is: 1, he enters at the planetary level. 2nd, he enters at the Jivas level as the Paramatma. And 3rd, he enters as he enters every atomic particle. So at the planetary level he enters as Sirodakshaya Vishnu. Then inside the heart he enters as Paramatma. And again inside every atom he is again entering as Sirodakshaya Vishnu. As the force by which the electrons are revolving around the orbit. Right? Scientists can only say what is the smallest indivisible particle, but they have not been able to say why electrons revolve around the orbit. They don't know. They may say it is because of this charge and that charge and centripetal force and whatever, right? But where is that force coming from? Have you asked that question in Melbourne Uni to your physics teacher? Okay, I want to know where that force is coming from. Tomorrow please ask, next week. Tell us what the teacher is saying. He says, I accept all these forces, but what is the cause of these forces? And don't leave her till she tells cause of all causes. And then you tell her. You say, I know it. It is coming from Sirodakshaya Vishnu, you tell. And then he comes from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and Mahavishnu leading up to Krishna. So that nobody knows, nobody cares also in this world. So in this verse, Lord himself is mentioning that I am available, I am entering at these 3 levels. At the atomic level and inside the heart, inside everyone's heart, I am there. And at the planetary level for maintenance. Therefore, he is also saying here that he is not saying that, he is saying in a later verse after this, but he is implying here that we are all fully dependent upon him and he is the actual maintainer. So all these verses he is saying to make us understand that he is our maintainer. It is not explicitly mentioned here, but it is explicitly mentioned in a later verse which will come now, down the line. Now, it is very difficult for us to see Lord Krishna as the maintainer. Why? For example, let's take food. Riya, where does cabbage come from?
Carnegie Market.
What? From plants, good. Because Riya is self-realized person. She has got knowledge. Correct? She is a devotee child, so she is saying like this. Otherwise, I had one relative of mine, my mother tells, he went to Madras and he says, Amma, inga maatilinu paalu varudama, he is saying. You know what you mean by that? Are Amma, ye dekho, gaay se doodh aa raha hai. So this is the state of affairs in the material world. Because he is always used to getting milk from the doodh wala. Correct? So he cannot see that beyond where does the doodh wala get his milk from? Again, he gets it from Hare Milk Colony. Where do Hare Milk Colony get milk from? From the cows, ultimately. Where does cow get milk from? From the grass. Where does grass come? From the earth. So this connection, they don't know. And grass will not come if there is no rainfall. Correct? So people cannot understand these things. They cannot see the connection. Vegetables, where do they come from? From earth. Who manufactures seeds? Nobody manufactures seeds. Sorrento or whatever that company, they can manipulate everything, but they cannot manufacture a seed. Sorrento, no? Which company?
Monsanto.
Monsanto. Sorrento is what? IT company.
Chilo.
Oh, Monsanto. Okay. That Monsanto or whatever, they cannot produce a seed from zero. So, because we are used to getting all these vegetables from the fruit market, readily available, just $3. So all we are thinking is that, okay, if you have money, you will get food. That's the conception with which people grow up. But people do not know who realizes most where food comes from? The farmer who is in the field. Because he knows that there is no rainfall, then he knows the importance of rainfall. So he is closest to Mother Nature than we are. Therefore, for him it is easy to accept that Krishna is the maintainer. For us it is very difficult. Oh, if this IGA में नहीं मिल रहा है तो we will go to coals and buy. No? But where will the farmer go? Okay, rainfall नहीं मिल रहा है तो okay, कहीं और से आ जाएगा. Will it come from anywhere? No. He is the last source. There is nobody else. There is nothing behind him. He cannot blame anyone. Just nature. So therefore, we are fully dependent on Lord Krishna. So all these examples are very important. Especially when you are doing the Bhaktivedanta session, does God exist? Then these examples you must quote from Bhagavad Gita. So keep it handy. In your Bhaktivedanta you are doing that, no? Yes. So you have to, when you learn here, immediately go and preach in that program. When you preach, you will remember whatever you learned. When you don't preach, you will forget. Even if you write exams, if you don't preach that, you will forget. Usually we remember things which have come out of our mouth. Or sometimes others will remind you, Prabhu, you gave a wonderful class that day, you told this point, and then you are saying, I told this point or what? Sounds very nice. And you are thinking, Arey Baap re, maine bola ye. I remember that day, Yamuna Lila, I think you only probably, you or Aditya, you had kept one paper, one of our early question papers, answer papers which we had written in Bhakti Vaibhav course. And I was amazed at the answer which I have myself written. Keshav Prabhu has actually given a very good remark. You have written very good answer, something very positive remarks he has given. And then I was thinking, Arey Baapre, ye answer maine likha. It was sounding absolutely new to me. As if I have never heard that before. And I have written those answers. Have you read your papers?
Yes.
Have you also felt like that? Few years back you go and say, Arey Baapre, these answers I wrote. How Prachina Barhi Sat, and then Baapre, now we have come to 9th study, 8th canto. Second canto answers we have forgotten, or third canto, fourth canto, absolutely we have forgotten. And those answers were really so deep. So I am thinking that I should preserve all my own answers, at least I will read that. So at least I will remember what I have studied before. What to speak of, learning new things which I have never read. Whatever we have read also, if we retain that, I think it will be useful for us. So therefore, it's important to then preach. Learn and then immediately preach. Then we will remember. So Lord Krishna is the maintainer. So we must be as close to this ground reality as possible. Develop knowledge and distribute this knowledge to others also. Verse 15. I am seated in everyone's heart. This is a key memory verse. One of the most important verses in Bhagavad Gita. Very, very often quoted verse. Everyone remembers this verse by heart? Yes. Hands up if you don't remember this by heart. Must remember this, especially if you are a preacher. You can't get away by not remembering this. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. I know why you are laughing. I know why you are laughing. I know why you are laughing. The moment you laughed, I know why you are laughing. I'll tell you that. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. Matta smriti jnanam apohanam cha. Vedaischa sarvairaham eva vedya vedanta krit veda vedeva chaham. You know why he is laughing? Gaurang Prabhu was once mentioning that bogus in his lecture called as Saints and Swindlers. If you have not heard it, please hear this lecture. It's the most humorous lecture I ever heard in my life. Okay, Saints and Swindlers. Have you heard it? Yeah. So if you have not, please hear. Here he says many bogus interpreters, and actually he mentions one bogus interpreter gave this interpretation of this Bhagavad Gita verse. Sarvasya chaham. Cha means tea. Hridi sannivishto. When you drink tea, then it is so satisfied to that. That's why Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita to drink tea. Matta smriti jnanam. Everything you will get. Remembrance will come by tea. Okay. And then also he says, no?
That Vishwa means stove.
Stove and Tivana. And then he's also, Shuklam Bharadaram also he says, no? Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Chaturbhu. So he talks about the 1 rupee coin, he says, no? Prasanna Valanda hai sarva vikna jayega. Upashante. With money everything will go away. So people give so many bogus interpretations. So even to this verse they have given. But okay, let's see the genuine interpretation. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. 3 things come from the Lord. What are they? Remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. Okay. So who can do express reading? Mahesh Prabhu is not here. Express reading.
The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from Him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also but about his past life. Thus, the Lord is not only all-pervading, He is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different fruitive results. He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the personal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the localized Paramatma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to the people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna in his incarnation as Vyasadeva is compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. The commentation of the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, He is the supplier and digester of foodstuff and witness of his activity, and the giver of knowledge in the form of the Vedas, and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the teacher of Bhagavad Gita. He is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus, God is all good. God is all merciful. Anta Pravishta Shashtal Jananam. The living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work where he ended his last life. So not only does the living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation from the Supreme Lord situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand the Vedas from him. If one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then Krishna gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Because a living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. Vedic literature confirms this. Yoso Sarvar Veda Giyate. In all Vedic literature, beginning from the 4 Vedas, Vedanta Sutra and the Upanishads and Puranas, the glories of the Supreme Lord are celebrated. By performance of Vedic rituals, discussion of the Vedic philosophy and worship of the Lord in devotional service, he is attained. Therefore, the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. The Vedas give us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing Him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 1.1.4 confirms this in the following words: Tatu Samanvaya. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach Him, and at the end, one can attain the Supreme Goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of the Vedas are clearly defined.
So what are the points here?
The purpose of the Vedas are to know Krishna, and he is also incarnated as Vyasadeva to give those Vedas.
Prabhupada talks about the Sambandha, Virya, and Vairya. 3 stages of it.
You have read and come as usual. Good. So Madhavan Prabhu's example should be followed by everyone. Just read and come. Then it's very powerful discussion can happen.
Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Forms. No.
Anything else?
Remembrance and forgetfulness, that's very important for the life.
Correct.
Without that, nothing happens. I heard in a lecture that even when we wake up in the morning, that Paramatma comes and gives us the remembrance. That's why we are able to remember who we are. Otherwise, next morning we'll struggle to find out who I was last day.
Yeah.
Going through this lecture, one of the Bhagavatam lecture was saying there was a devotee and he became a communist, and so he stopped. Before that he was going to the temple and chanting nicely and everything. Then he became a communist, he stopped doing all that. Then he met with an accident or something and he lost his memory completely. Only thing that he could remember was going to the temple and chanting.
What was that? Can you just repeat?
One devotee, he had amnesia. Okay, but the only thing that he remembered was chanting in the temple. All other things he forgot. Before his accident, he was practicing devotional life, but later on, because of some bad influence, he took to false ideologies. And then after the accident, he forgot everything else, but he still remembered the chanting, going to the temple. He remembered that part. That part he never forgot, even in that full amnesia. Because why? Because that remembrance is spiritual in nature, and no material event can remove that. Okay. So here there are 2 points which are very important to remember. One is how, as Supersoul, the Lord helps the jivas escape conditioning, or as Supersoul, how he helps the jivas escape from the bound conditions. That is a point number 1. And second point is how, in the form of Vedas, he helps jivas in escaping this material world. So the Lord helps in 2 ways: instructing from within and instructing from without. How he instructs from within as the Supersoul. How he instructs from without through the form of the scriptures, by which he is to be known. Okay. These are 2 important themes that come out from this particular verse. So, as Supersoul, how does the Lord help the jiva escape from bound condition? So, the analogy is given that just like Lord Krishna is present as fire inside the belly, which we discussed in the previous verse, I am the fire of digestion, right? Just like Lord Krishna is present as fire inside the belly, he is also present personally as Supersoul within the heart. So, belly may be here or heart may be here. Right? And this Supersoul which is present in the heart is the principle of all intelligence that we have. So it's not the brain that gives intelligence. Intelligence comes from the heart through the Supersoul, where the Supersoul is situated. Because what is intelligence? Intelligence is the power to take the right decisions. Is direction. Proper direction means proper intelligence. And direction comes from the Supersoul. And intelligence also requires smriti or remembrance, which the Lord gives. Intelligence also requires knowledge. Intelligence also requires forgetfulness. We have to forget the bad things that people did to us. That is intelligence. If we remember that and keep it inside our heart, then our dealings will never be appropriate. Right? So all these 3 things the Lord gives. So Just like Lord is present as fire in belly, He is present as Supersoul in everyone's hearts, and that is the principle of intelligence. And from this principle of intelligence comes the remembrance of things that one has experienced in the past. From this intelligence comes forgetfulness, and it is mentioned that from this intelligence comes the perception that is born from the contact of the senses with their sense objects. All that comes from this intelligence. So taking remembrance. So if you take remembrance, how does a baby, for example, right from the time it comes out from the womb of its mother, how does the baby know how to feed on the mother's milk? There is no training. Hospital doesn't provide any training. Correct? So the baby automatically knows how to breastfeed on the mother's milk. The baby automatically knows who is the mother. You put the baby in someone else's hand, there is no way they can stop crying. They will know the mother somehow. And the baby also knows that crying is the way by which one can attract attention. Again, there is no training. When we become big, then we need all those Poka systems and whatever fire alarm system and this system and that system to tell us what to do, like that. Whereas the baby doesn't need anything. It knows that if I have to attract attention, I have to cry. Correct? And also, if you see babies, sometimes they smile in their sleep suddenly, and then again they become this thing. They are crying, they are smiling. So these are all why they are doing that. Which means they are connecting from some emotions. They have some knowledge that this emotion means then I smile this week. So there is coming from past lifetimes. So they already come with lot of knowledge and some and the knowledge of how to respond to certain stimuli. They already know that. So that is because of the presence of the Supersoul. Forgetfulness. Forgetfulness is very, very important. Somebody said that why we are forgetting that what we did in the last time. We must remember, and we will not do the sin again. If we remember who we were in the last life, just imagine what will happen. Worst is if the men were ladies in the last lifetime and they start remembering, how will the relationship between husband and wife be after that? He'll say, मैं तो Gita हूँ दिल से. अरे you are Jagannath Ramdas. No, मैं तो Gita है. Can you imagine this? We will go crazy actually. We will absolutely go crazy. Or if we know that if Yamuna Leela knows that her husband was the husband of the neighbors, like that, suddenly remembrance comes, then what will happen? Or worst is, I was the dog which was barking, in the last life outside. So you can imagine, there will be complete chaos in society, complete chaos it will be. One of my cousins, I remember, he went to show his, hand or something, astrology. So the Pandit, he saw, they do this Nadi Josiam or something. They said that in the last lifetime you used to do black magic and you were in Sri Lanka. And then this lifetime he is now worried, my God, what will happen, somebody will do to me, I am finished, So he is always worried, somebody will do black magic to me, like that. Because astrologer told him like that. And that itself is enough for him to keep, there is no other black magic needed for him. that information is enough for him. That's how sometimes karma comes in different ways. I don't know whether he was black magic or that. He don't know whether that person was bogus or genuine. But thankfully sometimes the God gives us, all this forgetfulness. But some phobias are there. In fact, in one of the recent lectures, Dwarkadish Prabhu is a senior devotee in Chopati temple. He gave a beautiful class. In that, he was talking about various phobias. He was reading from a book and he was saying there are various phobias that one has. This phobia, that phobia. And how many? There are 200 plus phobias in the phobia dictionary. Now, what is a phobia? A phobia is something which you are born with, right? For example, I have fear of heights. No matter what, little bit I go up, I look down, then it happens like that. Something goes. Why? It's not that something has happened to me, but then I have that phobia since childhood. Maybe in the last lifetime something has happened. Some people have phobia of water. Some people have phobia of saintly persons. Can you believe it? Yes, there is a specific phobia which is mentioned there. I don't know which phobia it is, but it is called fear of saintly persons. What kind of karma one will have? Correct, no? Or fear of saintly person. Or it may be that somebody, a swindler who has been as a saint, you can imagine so many Swamijis, bogus Swamijis are there nowadays. In the ashram they rape the people, right? So if you have been in such an ashram and you have got this bitter experience, next lifetime you see a genuine sage also, you'll start, pata nahi kyun dar sa lagta hai in logon ko dekh ke, like that. You don't know why. That is because of that. Some vestiges of traces are there in the form of phobias. But largely, everything is erased. Thankfully, we start on a clean slate. And if people remember, even worse, you can imagine. Suppose, I gave you, $50,000 in the last lifetime. And this time I come and ask you, please, you owe me, you will tell, I'll take you to court for harassing me. I don't even know who you are. But I promised you I gave you $50,000 in the last lifetime. Just imagine how miserable I will be, because you are not even understanding that I am telling the truth. I have no way of proving. Better I forget that I gave you $50,000. Right? So many complications. I was just sitting and thinking, remembrance, if last lifetime, what all complications it can lead to. Like that. Very dangerous. Even in Radhesham Prabhu's book, Essence of Bhagavad Gita, he talks about in India cases where a small child started remembering her past life and she goes somewhere and says, "He is my husband." And then the parents are bewildered, what to do. It's a small child and she's saying, just imagine your daughter goes and tells someone, "He is my husband, here he is." The whole life will become chaotic after that. You wouldn't know what to do. You will also become disoriented. Very complex. Thankfully, this forgetfulness is given to us. Otherwise, we'll be unable to function. So, the Lord as Supersoul helps. Mata Smriti, Jnanam, Smriti and Apohanam he gives as Supersoul. And as Vedas, he gives us Jnanam. Smriti, Jnanam, Apohanam. Jnanam. Now, how? Because through the Vedas, we come to know two things. One is how, as long as we, there's some disturbance there, some child is screaming, I think. So just whoever the parent is, tell that parent to take the child away. I can't concentrate. So, the Vedas, So, Smriti, Jnanam, Apohanam. So, Smriti and Apohanam we covered. Now, Jnanam. Jnanam comes from the Vedas. The Vedas serve two functions. One is, as long as the Jiva is in this material world, the Veda gives the knowledge of how to do regulated sense enjoyment. Right? And for those people who are beyond Dharma, Artha, Kama, the Vedas also teach the science of moksha, impersonal liberation. And for those people who are interested in the personal form of the Lord, which is the highest self-realization, then the Vedas come in the form of Vedanta Sutra and then eventually as Srimad Bhagavatam and then again as Brihad Bhagavatamrita, like that. So the Vedas cater to the entire spectrum. People want knowledge for different things. Some people want knowledge of enjoying material life in a regulated way without incurring sin. Others say that whether we sin or whether we don't sin, we are going to be caught in this cycle, so we'll better get liberated. Still others say that, okay, what is the use of temporary liberation in Brahman? Again, when we have to fall down, we want to go beyond the Hiranyamayana Patrana, and then the Bhagavatam tells us how to do that. So this Vedas gives us that knowledge, all kinds of knowledge. So this is point number 2. So 2 points here, very important. Supersoul, how the Supersoul facilitates our escapement from the material world and how the Vedas facilitate our escapement from the material world. And then as Madhavanand Prabhu pointed out, through the Vedas we get the knowledge of, through the scriptures we get the knowledge of Sambandha, Avideya and Prayojana, SAP knowledge we get. In Bhagavad Gita also talks about SAP. Right? Verses 16 to 18. The next 3 verses which are going to come, they talk about the Sambandha Jnana. Verses 16 to 18. Verse 19 talks about Prayojana and verse 20 talks, Avideya. Verse 19 talks Avideya and verse 20 talks Prayojana. There are 2 classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living being is fallible. In the material world, every living being entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. So the verse 16 talks about us. Verse 17 talks about who? Lord Krishna, right? And then, because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world, in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person. So what is the Lord saying? He is making 3 points here. He is saying, "Aap kaun ho, मैं कौन हूँ," and then हम आपके हैं कौन. He tells 3 things here, right? These 3 together are called as what? Sambandha Gyan. So he's saying that you people are those people who are, you people can be divided into 2 types, fallible and infallible. If you are in alignment with my purpose, then you are infallible. Otherwise you remain fallible, conditioned soul in this material world. Who am I? I am transcendental, who is beyond this world anyway. So I am that, and then you are infinitesimal and I am the supreme. So Jive Swarupa Hoy Nitya Krishna Das. So you are subservient to me. So Lord is trying to give that Sambandha again. This is what is called as Sambandha again in these 3 verses. So these 3 verses are called as the Trishloki Gita. There is Chatushloki Gita which we saw. So this is called as the Trishloki Gita, giving the Sambandha Jnana. So in the exam you will get Trishloki Gita talks about Sambandha or Abhidaya or Prayojana. What will be your answer? That will be first question, which you will answer easily. Second question is means which verses are the 3 shlokis? And no choices will be provided. Then you will struggle with that question. Now everyone is discussing this. No, such questions will not come, don't worry. We will not test your smriti here, because we know the power of your apohanam. After this class. Okay, so Lord Krishna is quoting from the Vedanta Sutra in these 3 verses. So Vedanta Sutra mentions jivas are of 2 types. Shara Sarvani Bhutani refers to the conditioned souls who are fallible. Fallible souls have 4 defects. What are the 4 defects? Making mistakes, illusion, cheating, propensity, senses are imperfect. And then these fallible souls, their body undergoes 6 changes. Right? What are the 6 changes? Birth, growth, they stay for some time in a duration, then reproduction produces some effects, then dwindling and then vanishing. We were discussing that day. So any jiva who is in contact with matter, beginning from the first created person, who is Brahma, down to the smallest ant, is, if he is conditioned, then he will continue changing his body. Therefore, they are all fallible. And Akshara means what? Shara Sarva Bhutani is fallible. Akshara means infallible. Infallibility means what? Oneness. Infallibility will come only with oneness. Oneness doesn't mean Mayavadi oneness. It is qualitative oneness. Oneness of purpose with God. And that is called as Kutastha. Oneness of purpose with God. Now, when will this oneness come with God? When will this oneness come? When duality goes away. When duality will go away, when you cut the material existence with the sword of knowledge and detachment. So that is how this is connected to verses 4 and 5. You remember where 4 and 5 talked about cutting the banyan tree with the sword of, like that. So this is where the detachment aspect is coming. So only when we are detached can we have oneness of purpose with the Lord. Otherwise, Bahu Shaka hi Anantascha Uddhayo Avyavasayanam. Too many branches, our thinking will go. There will be no resolute determination. Like that. The Upanishads also mention Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kamam. So amongst all the living entities, both conditioned as well as liberated souls, there is one supreme living entity. This is the verse which Prabhupada consistently mentions in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to defeat the Mayavadis. Everywhere you will see Prabhupada writing this. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Like that. Which means what? Above all these people there is one. And here also Lord is saying. So Mayavadis, how can Mayavadis interpret this? Clearly Lord is saying there are fallible people, there are infallible people, and then there is me who is above all these fallible and infallible. Which means you can never be me, I am above. He is clearly saying this. Clearly defeats Mayavadi. So that's where the Sambandha Gyan. The Mayavadis basically have a problem with Sambandha Gyan. Because they say there is Sambandha kuch hai hi nahi, because jo tum ho wahi main ho. So where is the Sambandha? Right? So this is a basic problem. So amongst all the living entities, both conditioned as well as liberated, there is one supreme living entity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who maintains them and gives them all the facility for enjoyment according to different work that they do. So that's why the Lord uses the word tu. Bhagavad Prabhu writes, he uses the word tu. Tu means what? But. But means what? But there I am the. It is to distinguish. The Lord is using the word but to distinguish super soul from the two other ordinary souls, fallible and infallible. Super soul is different. Lord also declares himself as Bibharta here. There are two things he is doing. And in this verse, Lord is explicitly calling himself as the maintainer of living entities. So if someone asks, where is it written in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is the maintainer? You have to refer to verse 17, where he is saying that he is the maintainer. It's clearly saying that. Then verse 18, the Lord Krishna, he is concluding his summary of the Vedanta Sutra. In these three verses, he is speaking Vedanta Sutra, where he says no one can surpass the Supreme Personality, no one can surpass him, Krishna. Neither the conditioned soul can surpass him, nor the liberated infallible souls. Both of them cannot surpass him. He is therefore the greatest of all personalities. And Prabhupada writes that it is incorrect to think of the Supreme Lord and the living entities to be of the same level or equal in all respects. Also, individuality of living entities is also emphasized in Srila Prabhupada's purports. If you read, please look for that. Prabhupada says about the individuality, which we spoke just now. He is using the word you, infallible, fallible and I, which means all are individual. So you can't become one. And Prabhupada gives one interesting point. He says that when the soul is liberated, I don't know whether Prabhupada writes it or Gurujan Prabhu writes this. So Madhavan Prabhu, you can correct me here. But one of them wrote, and this is something which I also did not know before. The soul, when the soul is liberated, the super soul coming out of the body enters the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Of course, we know that the super soul there is no super soul in the spiritual world. But I didn't know what happens to the super soul. The super soul merges into the Brahma Jyoti. Like that. Then in that form, he remains in that identity, in his spiritual identity. Like that. The super soul is not acquired in the spiritual world. Okay, so what is the conclusion of all this? The conclusion is Lord Krishna is the source of Paramatma and Brahman features of the Absolute Truth. He is the highest of the highest. This knowledge of the supremacy of the Lord and the insignificance of the Jiva as his eternal infinitesimal parts and parcels is called as Sambandha Gyan. Is it clear? That is what essentially is being spoken in the three shloki. And having assimilated this Sambandha Gyan, that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from these Triloki verses, what are the activities of such a person? One who has understood this Sambandha Gyan, what does he do? So he engages in a process which is called as Prayojana. Which is called as Abhideya. Sambandha, Abhideya and then Prayojana. So if you know Sambandha Gyan, then you will do Abhideya. And what is that Abhideya? What is the process? Lord Krishna mentions in verse number 19. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which means whoever has got Sambandha Gyan, without doubting, not the doubts ke saath. Are ho sakta hai kya? Like that, the Canada devotee, I told you about him, no?
Yeah, famous.
Even when I was leaving for the airport, then he started saying, he is Krishna, the Supreme Personality. अब समझ में तो आया, लेकिन फिर से doubt आ रहा है. Hare Bol. And I took Lufthansa Airways after that. Never to see, go back. Very difficult, So many years, 25 years coming to the temple, still doubting. So whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. So simply knowing, what is the symptom of Sambandha Gyan? Abhideya. Otherwise there is no. हमको पता है Krishna. Many people come and say, I know about Krishna. Yeah, Krishna is God. I know. I'm not denying anything. I don't have debate with you. Krishna is Supreme Personality. Very good, very good. I'm accepting now. Then what you should do? If you're really accepting without doubt, then you should engage in the Abhideya. So only those people are true transcendentalists who are following the process of Krishna consciousness, not merely having the knowledge. So this without doubt, this is very important. So therefore, Shraddha. Shraddha means what? Faith. If you have doubt, then you will not engage in, you will not associate with devotees, or you will not engage in Bhajana Kriya. So Adhav Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Tata Bhajana Kriya. So devotional life begins with this faith. Faith means what? Free from doubt. And faith begins and matures in Krishna consciousness. It doesn't mean that, some people ask, प्रभु अभी तो हम लोग अनर्थ निवृत्ति स्टेज में, चलो अच्छा हो गया, अपना फेथ हो गया अभी, चलो साधु संघ भी हो गया, चलो अभी अनर्थ निवृत्ति में, अभी निष्ठा की ओर बढ़ेंगे हम. ऐसा नहीं है. It doesn't work like that. Okay. So Kadambakaran Maharaj mentioned in Toronto when we were doing our Bhakti Shastri, he gave a very nice example. He said, this is like a graphic equalizer. So faith में आप इधर हो, साधु संघ में आप इधर हो, बहुत faith में हो लेकिन साधु संघ ही नहीं ले रहे हो. और faith कम है but your association is too high. So it's like that. So we are at different levels in our Anartha Nivritti. In our Nishtha we are 50%, Anartha Nivritti 45%, sorry, maybe 70%, like that. Anartha Nivritti is high, then Nishtha will also be high. Like that. So
you said it keeps going up and down.
It keeps going up and down, faith. Tathyanukampam Sushimeksamano, no? Something goes wrong, faith goes down. Right? If we, especially faith goes down when we have fight with devotees also. No? Sometimes faith goes down. We fight with one another.
Even other things. Sometimes we have controls and other things, then again they pop up. So that
correct. That also reduces the faith. Okay, so faith means without doubt. So Srila Prabhupada hits us the Mayavadis who have a bogus understanding of Sambandha Gyan in the purports. Owing to envy of Lord, they lack faith. Why do they lack faith? Because of envy. They twist the scriptural meanings, and Prabhupada is very heavy on these people. If you go and read the purports, you will understand. So the word bhajati is very significant here. If a person is engaged in full Krishna consciousness, devotional service to the Lord, it is to be understood that he has understood all Vedic knowledge. If a person is engaged in bhakti, that means he has understood all Vedic knowledge. And who says this in Srimad Bhagavatam? Devahuti is telling Kapila. Which verse is that? I think I remember I told last time. Devahuti is telling Kapila, Lord Kapila. Oh, how great souls these people have been who have Aho Bhatav Swapacho Te Gariyan. What is the next line? Sam Vartate Nama Tubhyam. Yad Jivagre Vartate Nama Tubhyam. Tepus Tapaste Juhu Shashnurarya. Then Brahmanochur Nama Grihananti Yete. Okay, this is a verse which Devahuti is telling Lord Kapila Dev. Thus, the mother is telling the son. Son, of course, son is not an ordinary son. It's the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So she is telling him that how glorious these people are who are chanting their holy names. Do you have the meaning with you?
No,
they are so.
They must have completed all the their past life.
Correct. And they must have perfected everything. They must be knowers of everything that is to be known in the Vedas. Because they were like that in this lifetime, they are chanting your holy names. Okay. So there is a praman in the Srimad Bhagavatam also. So Prabhupada says there is no need for any other spiritual process for one who understands this supreme absolute truth. He has already come to the point. So we don't need to devotees. We don't need to read the Rig Veda and Yajur Veda. There is no need if you are chanting already. So that person who has this knowledge of the supremacy of the Lord is called as Sarvavit, because this knowledge is the true fruit of all the Vedas. Knowledge which leads to devotion is called as Raja Vidya, king of all knowledge. So the Raja Vidya aspect is given in verse number 19. And in verse number 20, which we will read now, conclude with that, the aspect of Raja Guhyam is given. So Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam. 20. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise and his endeavors will know perfection. So the Raja Guhyam aspect of Krishna consciousness is given. So Prabhupada writes that wherever devotional service exists, material contamination cannot coexist there. Krishna haya Surya sama, Maya haya Andakar. Jahan Krishna nahi Maya Adhikar. Very good. So therefore, wherever devotional service exists, material contamination cannot exist there. Wherever the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. And Arjuna is addressed here as Anagha. The word Anagha is used to address. Why? O sinless one. That is how Lord Krishna is addressing Arjuna. Why? This means that unless one is free from all sinful reactions, it is difficult for someone to understand Krishna. Like that. So Lord is very beautifully addressing, Arjuna in these words, which is telling some philosophy behind that word. So how beautiful this Bhagavad Gita is. So by devotional service, one automatically comes to the stage of sinlessness. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agham dunvanti karchaniyana niharam eva bhaskara. Just like the sun dissipates fogs by its rays, devotional service can uproot the weed of sinful action in such a way that they will never sprout in the heart again. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, by devotional service one comes to sinlessness. In performing devotional service, however, Prabhupada cautions about two things. He is saying, actually he cautions us about one thing which has got two dimensions. He cautions us that we must surmount the weakness of the heart. Prabhupada says, in performing devotional service, the most important thing is we must surmount the weakness of heart. And there are two dimensions. Prabhupada says, the first fall down of a devotee is caused by the desire to lord it over material nature. That is point number A, which we already discussed before. Desire to become Purusha Bhav, to lord it over material nature. It can be in many forms. It can be to control, sex desire, all these are forms of Purusha Bhav. So that can lead to fall down. The second weakness is he becomes attached to matter and becomes very possessive about matter. Greed. So lust, greed. So all these things. So these are all weakness of the heart. It comes from weakness of the heart. So the problems of material existence, Prabhupada writes, is because of this weakness of heart. And one is always susceptible to fall down because of this. So with that, Prabhupada concludes this chapter. So in summary, Prabhupada again summarizes, Gurujan Prabhu also summarizes this in surrendering unto me. This initial, Gurujan Prabhu writes that the initial 5 verses of the chapter aim at describing the process of freeing oneself from the weaknesses of the heart. The later verses discuss what is called as Purushottam Yoga. Because if one has to understand Purushottama Yoga, one has to become sinless. Purushottama Yoga means what? The process of connecting with the Supreme, which is Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojana. In summary, so if anyone asks Purushottama Yoga, what is it? Then Purushottama Yoga is nothing but SAP, Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojana. That is the title of this chapter. So in summary, the chapter 15 discusses breaking our material attachments, which we saw in the last class. Breaking our material attachments and understanding Lord Krishna as the source of Brahman, as the supreme maintainer, as the Paramatma, and as the supreme personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. So there is a first half and there is a second half. Knowing all these things, one surrenders and becomes one with him and his purpose in devotional life. That is the Prayojana, Abhidaya and Prayojana. We practice Krishna consciousness and we become one in purpose with him and we finally attain him. Like that. And this is the conclusion of all the Shastras, Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojana, or the yoga of the Supreme Person, or Purushottama Yoga. Srila Prabhupada ki.